What's up, guys? Jack Getchman here from Scootertrix Studios, and I am back to do another commentary for Scootertrix the Abridged, this time for episode 12. So, let us begin. So, this is a big arc episode, because of course it introduces the three Cutie Mark Crusaders as the generals for the war. And I think I've mentioned this before, but the whole idea that they're generals is a very early idea, and it's earlier than Scootertrix the Abridged itself. This is just kind of something that I kind of always had planned, was that they were going to be generals.
You declared war?
Yeah, I think when I sort of pitched it to myself, it was sort of, there's these three master prodigy children who are amazing generals, but they suck at math. Like that was the whole concept for him.
So you're preparing for war?
And I had Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle down for the voices and kind of their characteristics, but I didn't have Scootaloo. And for the longest time, I didn't know what to do with Scootaloo, and I was kind of trying out different voices and thinking, should I get different voice actors for this, or, what should I do with Scootaloo? And eventually it kind of settled with going with just sort of three different personality types that would sort of contradict each other with the generals. So you have Apple Bloom, who's kind of the normal one, and then you have Sweetie Belle, who's the super happy and nice one, and then you have Scootaloo, who's the sort of horrible, kill everyone one.
How am I supposed to know what the heck multiplication is?
I love their introduction. I think it was just done so well. There were a lot of new characters in this episode too. I really it was really fun doing this episode because it was kind of like doing a whole new Abridged series almost, because it's just a whole new cast essentially.
Nice to meet you too.
Who's your friend there?
Yeah, so you got Lieutenant Tiara and Spooky Spoon, and their basic concept was just to make them nicer. Instead of bullies, they're helpful and nice. And Spooky Spoon was just a sketch about what if you had a ghost who came back, and it's like, oh, you're dead, I'm so sorry. He's like, oh yeah, whatever, it's cool. And then that was kind of, I don't know, it's just a random sketch. But I like the name, Spooky Spoon.
Death happens to all of us. Well, except for that goddamn Celestia.
Yeah. And also brought in a lot of voice actors for this episode. Because it was just a great opportunity, because there's just all these new characters. So brought Jacob Goody back, and he does Scootaloo. And he's done a lot of stuff for Scootertrix now, kind of a lot of notable characters. Yeah, and he's always happy to do Scootertrix stuff. He'll come in and he's always on board. He always has to have a jug of water though when doing Scootaloo's voice, because it's not good for his throat, or it hurts his throat. So he's like, oh yeah, but he's fine. End of the day, he's like, yeah, great. So yeah. And then Spooky Spoon was someone else too. That was Zach Meeks, and he goes to my school and does short films. Actually, basically a lot. I think basically every person I brought in here goes to my school. So yeah, but he's a really nice guy. Just came up to him and I was like, hey, you want to be in this parody series? I think you'd be perfect for the part. He's like, yeah, I'm down. Basically everyone that I came up to, they're not bronies, so it was a little awkward going up to him. It's like, hey, do you want to be this pony in this Abridged series? But I know them all, so they're like, yeah, okay, I'm down. Yeah.
Is that why they covered up our cutie marks?
Exactly. Just some ordinary
Oh yeah, coming up with an excuse for why they don't have cutie marks.
Oh my god, meeting adjourned.
Why would you tell us that? You hired children to command your army?
It's brilliant.
Chris is great.
It's insane.
Oh yeah, and I brought in 2 other people too. There's Neenah Hedeberg, and she did Doctor Who's in this episode, and it's kind of cool because she loves Doctor Who, so I thought she'd be great for this part. And she does sound work. She's a sound design person. And then the other person I brought in was Chris Hanna, and he enters film festivals and goes to film festivals and stuff, and he has his own channel called ZGN Productions, and he does reviews and stuff. So yeah, cool guy, cool people. They were all excited to come in. He did Blue Scootaloo. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. Maybe.
Well, I guess it's good that you're going to school then.
And I like this scene because it establishes kind of Applejack's protectiveness of Apple Bloom. And that's something that it was kind of established in 9, but it's much more established here, I think.
I can't. Apples,
But I think it's something that really needed to be done because Applejack,
Apples keep them away, you know.
you know, she's very big on family. And then I couldn't resist doing that Doctor Who's joke, or the Doctor Who joke with the apples. Well, it's not really Doctor Who. It's just a doctor and apples. I just couldn't resist. It was great. And Cheerily, I love doing Cheerily's voice. It's so fun. It's so dramatic and crazy, and I just love doing it. It's probably my favorite voice to do is Cheerily's voice. Also, Sweetie Belle's voice is really fun to do too. I like doing that one.
My old school didn't teach it.
And what school would that be?
Well, it was the academy.
This episode was really in the writing stages. A lot of these scenes were completely switched around. Like this scene took place sort of in the middle of the episode, like before the Applejack and Apple Bloom scene. And then there was just a lot of rearranging and switching around, and the episode was more dramatic at one point, and there was one point where the Crusaders didn't know who the others were, and they were just meeting each other for the first time. But then that would have just taken too much time, and I don't know. Yeah. I love doing Berry Pinch too. And Blue Scootaloo. Yeah, Berry Pinch is fun. And I really like this scene too. It's just, I like the concept of like this crazy teacher like asking these ridiculous questions, and then the students are like, oh, I don't know, and then she just blows up in their faces.
Is it 12? No, the answer was 8.
So I was right.
And then again, just kind of banter between the characters, and lots of characters talking, lots of banter, and that's kind of what I try to aim for with just comedic scenes, at least.
I don't know. She's pretty happy right now the way she is. I'll see what I can do though.
Good. Now,
Zing! Foreshadowing.
I got a plan.
what is it?
We just let them come. Give them a couple easy
So,
They're winning.
as you might have guessed, I am a fan of World War I. My favorite time period in history is actually kind of like 1800s to World War I. Like, that's my favorite era of history. And I think I actually finished listening to Dan Carlin's podcast on World War I right before I wrote this episode. And so I was all like, oh, World War I, it's so awesome. And if you don't know who Dan Carlin is, he does this podcast series on history, and it's a great series. I love how passionate he is on just talking about the various different eras of history that he goes over. And he does one on World War I, and it's like 6 parts, and each part is like 4 hours long. But it's worth it. It's so good. I highly recommend go checking it out. Yeah. And that's the Schlieffen pony plan.
I'll call it the Schlieffen.
I don't know. Overall, I like episode 11 and 10 better than this one. But I think it's still a good episode. I think it's good. Yeah. And then the next one is episode 13. So that'll be fun. Hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya.